All right, welcome to today's episode. I thought you would like the title. The title was No Process Left Behind, and really it references some of the great presidential claims, probably not the most successful. And unfortunately, you're likely to have a similar experience if all you're focused on is processes. Now, this could be called standard operating procedures, processes, the instructions, checklists. Probably got a bunch of different ideas about what this actually is. Well, when I'm talking about a process, what is it? Well, basically, it's the instructions. It's like how to go from A to B. Think of it like a ladder. And you might go, hey, that would be so cool if I actually had that in my business. Like, imagine having the processes documented, like to have them and go, okay, hey, I've got a new team member coming on. And we could reference that document and say, hey, this is how to do this particular task. Here it is written down. Do this and follow these steps and it will give, this is the work. This is also extremely useful if you've got challenges around work not being done correctly. So for instance, this is what usually happens. Someone tells somebody else what to do. They get distracted, they don't hear it properly, they run into an unexpected problem, and then there's an argument. And the work doesn't get done right, but the manager says, hey, I told you to do this. And then that may or may not actually represent what went on. And then the team member heard something and they did something else, if they can even remember it. And it's like, okay, now we've got problems. How do you even work through that? How do you try and sort out that jumbled mess of half-remembered instructions, incorrectly heard instructions? Like, it's not a great surprise. So you might be clinging on to the idea that if you could just document all the processes, all of the SOPs in your business, then suddenly all your problems would be solved. But I want you to consider that this is just part of the problem. One of the challenges of getting this all together is that processes by themselves are useful, yes, but not that useful. Like, they are only a part of the solution. And why is that? Well, you see, the way that I think about it, you see, processes should never be by themselves. Any process should be part of a system. And what does a system do? Well, a system creates a result. And the way that the system does that is by executing the process. So you see, just having a bunch of documented processes, even if you manage to put them all in the same place and manage to get your team to use them consistently, both of which are significant challenges, then you've still got the problem of like, how do all of these things fit together? What about if someone forgets to use a process? Are you just going to have one really long process for every system? You're like, you know what? Let's just write down all of the steps to make a webinar. You're like, whoa, okay, actually, you know what? There's quite a lot of steps there, even off the top of my head. All right, so we've got to get our marketing messages. We've got to get our webinar itself, like our PowerPoint or our keynote slides have to be made. Is it going to be practiced? Which webinar software are we going to hold it on? How are we going to get people there? What about the opt-in form? What about the way of capturing the email and the phone number? What about the automations? What about the ads? What about the follow-up? You're like, whoa, you know what? That reasonably easy sentence. Why don't we do a webinar and we'll sell some stuff? If you don't have a systematic approach to this, you go, whoa, hang on, we've got a lot of moving parts here. We've got a lot of moving parts here. The cool thing is that when you do think systematically, suddenly you can break down a few of those parts and go, you know what? Well, maybe the making of a webinar could be one system. Like, that's going to end up with some slides and maybe some practicing of it. And then another system could be making a funnel. You're like, okay, yeah, right. That's going to get me an opt-in page, and that's going to get me a thank you page, and maybe you're going to put a one-time offer there, and then there's going to be the place that the webinar gets done. Is that going to be on a page, or is that going to be on Zoom? And then is there a sales page? Is there a checkout page? Is there a thank you page? You know, like that's the funnel itself. And then you might say, well, hang on. Okay, we've got those two systems in place. What else do we need? Well, we might need some emails. We might need some reminders, like to actually get people to come. And so maybe that's a system as well, a system for getting people to the webinar. And that creates your emails for that, and then an email system for those that come that are able to actually show up. They've shown a higher level commitment. They should be probably communicated with in a different way. So that's another email system, probably very similar to the first one. So maybe we could just use that same one. So there's an email system for getting in there. There's an email system for those that show up. And what about those that don't show up? What are we going to do with them? Oh, well, maybe we should communicate with them. So we could have a third variant of that email system. So one system, email campaign system, but 3 different uses. Okay, so we've got 5 systems here in total, like 5 separate systems, 3 of which are the same. And then your last one is, well, okay, hang on, how am I going to get people there? And you might have a system for creating Facebook ads, a system for creating LinkedIn ads, a system for creating YouTube ads, a system for creating retargeting ads. Like those systems, that might be just one system. You know, like it's like, okay, hey, we're gonna have a system for creating the ads, and then we're gonna have a system for deploying the ads. And suddenly what you can see here is that you're breaking down the thought processes for what sounds so easy and then becomes ridiculously overwhelming if you're disorganized and don't think systematically into, okay, hang on, we've got 5 separate systems. We've got creating the ads, deploying the ads, creating the funnel, creating the webinar, and creating the email campaign. And we've got a couple of different variants on 2 of those. We've got deploy to Facebook, deploy to YouTube, and deploy to LinkedIn. And then on the email campaign, we've got an email campaign to get them there. We've got an email campaign to talk to the ones that showed up, and we've got an email campaign to talk to those that didn't. You want to execute a webinar? Now this, without a systematic approach, I don't know, maybe it's 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. With a systematic approach, I don't know, maybe it's 2 weeks. The cool thing is you can deploy multiple ones of these at the same time. You can get stuff done so much quicker, and you can improve how you do it for next time by going through this process. Make little improvements. Hey, remember to do this. Remember to do this. Set up this. Here's the link to go to ClickFunnels. Or here's the link to go to Kajabi. Or here's the link to go to Lead Pages. Whatever your funnel builder is. Here's the link that templates out the email campaigns. Here's the best way that we found to use the Facebook ad creation. Do we use Fiverr? Do we use Canva? How are we going to do these things? What happens if we need to move and we need to do it quickly? Here's a backup process. All of these things could be documented out. But when you think systematically, you see that these processes are not just orphans. They don't just exist in isolation. They exist as part of a system, and that system creates the results. And in this case, we've been discussing a system that's made up of multiple systems. Deploying a webinar. Do you wonder why many people never manage to do it? Because they get overwhelmed, they get disorganized, they start approaching different elements one at a time, never completing any of them, and it ends up being a giant mess that never gets deployed, which is great for you if you happen to be able to do this stuff. If you need help with this, if you're like, you know what, I can see a strategic advantage in having a systems mindset in my business, in learning how to do these systems, then head over to systemio.dev. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope your mind is opening up to seeing the world in a different way, the way that will get you results consistently, and that is through systems. All right, see you again next time. Thanks for tuning in. See you then.